All right, it looks like we are live. I was a little eager, so maybe it's a minute before 8 o'clock Eastern. I am Nunez Nunchi, and I am hosting a live watch party for The Glory Season 2 or Part 2. So, technically, episode 9. So, that said, shortly as folks are coming in, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And we will go ahead and via teleparty watch the Netflix the show together. So if you could, if you're on here, just go onto the teleparty link and we'll just see how many folks join in. But because it's a Friday night on the East Coast, and I believe because the like all 16 or all 8 episodes dropped the second half much earlier today. I want to say it dropped around 3 a.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. Pacific. And so Friday night in Korea. So I believe I've heard already tons of folks have binged it and watched literally all 8 episodes. So what I'm going to do is we're going to watch together, even if you've already seen it, just as long as you don't give any spoilers in the chat, we're going to chat via the YouTube, but go to this teleparty link. So I'm going to pin it again. If you see it, um, go ahead and make sure that you click onto the teleparty link that I pinned up here to make sure that you guys join my link so you're watching with me. You can also watch the YouTube without watching with me because I will, if I'm going to do a live deep dive, I'm going to pause it certain times. I'll try not to do it that much, but it's mainly watching together, commenting. Please comment more on the YouTube because that's what I'll be looking at, and that's where we can feel like we're watching together. But I did not rewatch too much because this isn't generally the type of K-drama that I watch for self-care, right? And you guys know that I like watching K-dramas to benefit my mental health and to make me feel better. However, I watched it because I knew it was going to be good and all the hype surrounding it. And of course, the screenwriter or the writer we know is a legend who wrote Goblin, Mr. Sunshine, Descendants of the Sun. Oh gosh, what else did she write? Tons. Like, feel free to put in the chat box. But Kim Eun Suk, so she's known to be the best, and I want to say it was excellent. Excellent. Season 1 was really good. Aside from, I want to say the first episode, which was probably the most triggering, and some of the flashbacks that we saw in season 1 were difficult to watch, right? And actually, it was interesting because my college son is home, and and he loved Squid Game. I mean, who didn't, right? So he loves stuff like that, Kingdom, all the zombie stuff. And so when he watched the first episode with my husband, it was funny when he actually said, "This is kind of sad. I don't want to watch it." So he was thinking, but I thought that was interesting because the first episode is so emotionally charged and triggering and horrific because that's where we see most of the abuse happen. That I thought that was interesting that my son said that, but then my husband's like, "No, keep watching. It's good. It's not just that." And yeah, sure enough, he's pretty much caught up, so he's going to be watching with us. So yeah, I'm just waiting for a few more folks, and then we can get started. Again, did you? Good. I'm glad. I'm glad that you watched all episodes and you're going to join. Just don't give the spoilers. Look at the chat box right now and see my teleparty link, so you can watch with me. And if not, that's totally fine because some people have already watched it. But I just want you to know that I put the teleparty link in the YouTube for you guys watch along with me. So I'm going to do my best to do a live. I will pause when I need to. I have not seen it. Yes, self-control. It is 8:03 Eastern, Friday night on the East Coast, and I was basically working, so it was easy not totally get into it. But I heard lots of responses, pretty much no spoilers. I think I've been pretty spared on that, but I did hear everyone rated it a 10 or like 9 to 10 plus, which is a good sign. So it sounds like you guys were very happy with the ending, is what I'm assuming. All right. If you guys are ready, I'm going to get started. So I'm going to play it again. At the top of this chat is the teleparty link. Click on it, and you will be following along as I am watching. Okay. Let me know if you have questions. And feel free to, whoever's here, just chime in, or you could chat on the chat box. And it's totally fine because again, pretend that you're watching, we are watching together, pretend that you're here together watching. So I'm going to get started. All right. And yes, and I will do some deep dive analysis and hopefully it's not too triggering, but let's see. Let's get going. Oh, one other thing is Yunjin, who I've been trying to study, which is, the probably the queen bee of the bullies. She is fascinating to me because I'm trying to figure out just her motivation, her motive, even when she was a teenager. So when you're watching season one, a lot of people are calling her psycho, a psychopath, evil, all of that, all of the above. I'm not denying that. However, I wouldn't call her necessarily a psychopath. Sociopath is probably more like it. Psychopaths are literally psycho, have no conscience, like can't even think good, bad, evil, good, nothing. So they can't separate that. And in some sense, they're struggling or they're suffering from mental illness. Yunjin is fascinating if you break it down, and I was trying to watch her more. She definitely has a conscience, meaning she was trying to cover up all the stuff. She knew what she did to Song Kyung-go's the main character, right? Was that she did wrong to her. And she was even fearful that her daughter would find out. So that shows she was thinking straight to know what she was doing, which is even more calculated if you think about it, a little harder to accept when someone has that, wherewithal to have the decision to going, what if she finds out? I'm scared what she's going to do to my daughter. And she's doing everything she can to cover up that part and any association with anything she did that was wrong, but not admitting wrong. She's not admitting wrong. She knows she did wrong, though, right? In fact, there was a scene between her and Tolan that she literally said to her, what do I get to give you? I'll give you all this money to get you out of my life, to make up for any, and I think she said mental and emotional distress or physical distress. And seeing that, you're like, oh my goodness, then you totally know what you're doing. And I think that is harder to deal with. It's like I said, it's almost, you can almost not excuse, but feel like someone is just mentally ill enough and that can't be helped, that they do something horrific. But when someone is calculated enough to feel like they can make the decision to do it and choose to do it and know it's wrong and years later trying to cover that up, that's the thing I'm struggling with. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to play out. And I'm assuming we wanted her to get the revenge, but I'm hoping it's a way that makes sense because it'd be great if Tongan could live, I want to say, happy and at peace and not let this revenge consume her future life. However, it's entertaining. And so I think it'll be good to see that satisfaction when she does that. So I'm assuming that's going to happen because I don't think a lot of people would, I'm assuming, I wouldn't think that a lot of people would give it tens, saying they loved it so much. And all the DMs I've gotten without spoilers that they loved it if it wasn't the ending that we're thinking that we want to see. All right. Well, feel free to chat. Let's get started. And I'm going to start with episode 9. I was like watching the beginning because it's really well done, the intro. And if you see all the symbolism in there, yeah, I might do some of this commentary. The knives with Lee Do-hyun's character, right? I'm also very curious to see what's gonna happen to Lee Do-hyun's character, which is the doctor. Hmm. Yeah, showing what happened in the past, right? Don't you like how they name themselves on the phone? They do these nicknames on the phone. Episode 9. Who do you guys like or dislike the most? I'm trying to figure that out. Yunjin a given, but you have someone else that you dislike? Mm, that's how episode 8 ended, right? I'm gonna say something. Okay. Well, there's no dialogue right now. Um, Again, I don't like to do a full analysis of a character till the whole thing's done. Because you know how K-dramas are with the character arcs and everything, but even her comment of like, in the Korean and the translation, you know, sometimes Netflix translates not so accurately. I think he pretty much got it right, but you saw his face, right? She had no remorse. If anything, she turned it all around and went like, "Why are you here? You should be on my side no matter what," that kind of thing. And it just solidified it. She didn't have a reason. So remember, I was trying to figure out the motive. Well, sociopathic behavior, I guess there's really no reason behind it except just cause, and that, and again, still there's still a slight of a conscious, not non-conscious in a good way. You just know you're doing wrong. So I think that's fascinating. And so even though I feel like revenge shouldn't be the thing to have someone live by, because it can be, revenge is hateful, right? Just seeing that, I'm like, well, you know what? Get the revenge. She's terrible. She's a terrible person. And so then you think about her with her child, which I'm also trying to figure out. There's a lot to figure out with her. The reason why I feel like she's the one I'm looking at is because she's creating all this. You know, it stems from her, and her behavior is what stemmed all of Tolan's adult life. And so there, and then not obviously she's having an impact in this particular. And this guy, I feel like, I liked his reaction just now. Did you see that? His reaction was like, "What did you just say? Oh my gosh, I married somebody terrible." So I'll keep going. Hmm, good point. Yeah, no, that's a good point about the poster. you remember the backstory of Lee Do-hyun's dad, the doctor's dad, right? You guys know. So he has his own story of horrific, horrific trauma. So I'm just still not quite sure how that's gonna play in. But let's look at her look, right? Hmm, did I miss something? What? Ah, not a cursing in this. Uh, what? So yeah, I gotta talk about that. So whoever's watched it, obviously don't give out any spoilers, but feel free to chime in. What are your thoughts to that when you see this exchange? Yunjin being just like she was back then. I thought that one point, I'm gonna rewind it actually, because I want to listen to it again. What I like to do, just so you know, is sometimes listen to the Korean. No, listen. Okay, that. So, I wanted to rewind that part, sorry, if because we're just seeing it again, is so I think she brought something about how Tongan was basically born into a situation, being poor compared to her. And from what I've seen and what we hear about Korean culture, and bullying is a societal issue, systemic issue that they're, in some sense, finally addressing. But there is a lot of that discrepancy, in some sense, the discrimination between the rich and the poor in Korea. And so that's kind of the motive. Being you aren't good enough, so I'm just going to do this to you. So, I mean, it's not even any reason except the fact that she just looked down on her and felt like she could and had that authority because of the social status. And if you guys had seen some of my reels, that very much does exist. I would say, in some sense, I see it a little bit more now. It's more prevalent now than it was even back then when I was first getting married and all that stuff, because there's more of a discrepancy between the rich and the poor. So this is now obviously they're not going to necessarily behave to this caliber, but we hope. But definitely the what is it, like self-righteous, like I can do what I want because this is the class that I was born in. Yeah, and I wanted to give an example about this because, for instance, I remember even asking my mom, and just to give you some background, my mom was raised in a similar social status as Yunjin, but she did not behave this way. But I will say, I asked her once because I saw, if I remember a scene in 39. If you guys saw that on Netflix with Sonia Jin and the two best friends, there was a scene where the best friend who was working in retail at the mall got treated so poorly by some, I don't know, rich, obnoxious woman because of the way she was just so entitled and threw a bunch of credit cards at her or something like that. If you remember that scene, I remember seeing that scene with my mom. She doesn't watch a lot of K dramas, but she was watching that with me, and I said, "Amma, do they really do that? That's like so not true, right? Like people doing that." And she goes, "No." Like she actually goes, "Oh yeah, no, they do things like that. They will because look at me, look at who I am, and I can afford all this. I can treat you like this." I'm bringing this up because that's sad, but that is the reality of just the social class in Korea. It's really very much a big deal. And so that to us, and this is not to explain her behavior. It's just saying, wow, she thinks that she's entitled to do that just because of how she was brought into a certain class that Tongan was not. And that's pretty much what a lot of us suspected in some sense as we're watching. But not everybody is bullied. Not everybody that gets bullied is poor. I remember because I do a lot of research and I ask a lot of folks in Korea, is that true? Rich versus poor, you are bullied because you're rich. No, not necessarily. And I will say, pretty much everyone I speak to has been bullied, including even my own dad. Again, not to this extent. It wasn't so much physical as it was social and verbal. But he was bullied because he had a southern accent. So when he moved to Seoul, he got made fun of. So it's that, again, it's that elitist attitude, but also all about the hierarchy of social standing, age, and all of that. Just to give you some of that background, that is a big struggle. And that mental health wise, you can imagine what that does. So did you see Song Hye-kyo's face right here? By the way, I think she over the years, her acting has gone whatever to me, but this particular, if you watch her facial expressions and that one expression where she flinched, I don't know if you saw that. She flinched when she was like I didn't do anything wrong. That translation was accurate. And you could just see her going, "Wow, I was gonna give her a chance." I'm assuming Song Ye-kyo probably or Moon Tong-eun didn't expect her to apologize or anything, but still that flinch was like, "Wow, like this is you. You're terrible." So anyways, I'll stop talking, but I wanted to talk a little bit about that background and let's see what gosh, just basically more and more you dislike her. Or I did. Feel free to chat if you have anything to say. That's terrible. Mm. He's cute, isn't he? Oh, I guess that's the tent she ordered. I guess she ordered that. Oh, that's kinda creepy. You notice how Koreans have a lot of camping scenes? It's like such a trend. I really like this song, by the way. They're also dysfunctional. Hmm. So he is the other girl that they bullied, right? Do you think So he really died? That's the other one. Wow. Hmm. I guess the girl died, but then what about who's that girl with the other, the assistant? Her assistant? All the characters. Mm, mm. I forgot how short these episodes are. I'm gonna say something. First of all, I meant to say earlier, the main characters, um, the antagonists, so Tongun, Lee Do-hyun's character, which I forgot his name, the doctor, his mom, Sohee, the the person helping her who's being physically abused by her husband, or I'm thinking her husband and maybe the stepdad. I'm not quite sure. Maybe that's their bio dad, but all of them are threaded together with their own sad stories. If you notice that, right? So I think that's that how they do that in storytelling, the commonalities and the bonds that people might have and a connection. That happens in real life. You feel a connection with somebody who's gone through something similar from you, whether it's tragic or happy. So there's that connection, there's that belonging, and that's what I'm seeing happening. But I don't know if you had an aha moment. The K-dramas have a formula where it's like episode 8, 9, 10, usually 8 to 10, where if it's the main leads, their romance kind of culminates, and then they realize that they're in love. So this is technically episode 9. And I think she revealed something really important, that Sohee, the other girl that was abused, basically bullied, but it's abuse, by the group of those four people, Yunjin and her gang. I realized that that's a lot of her motivation too. So in that sense, that is kind of cool, meaning it's not just about her. So I wanted to pause right there, but I thought that was epiphany. The whole time I'm thinking she's driven by herself and what's happened, and she wants to have justice for herself. There's nothing wrong with that. But to me, this is really important when it comes just to someone's psyche of being motivated to do it for someone else as well. And then actually being driven to avenge this person's death. So he's death that ends up helping her as well, because obviously they were both bullied and abused by the same people. But it has switched things for me. Now, in some sense, I kind of am thinking the glory is not as dark as I initially thought, because I was thinking, where is this going? Right. And so this is actually a good moment for me in the sense of, if I'm the therapist here analyzing, wow, she is there because she wants to do good for someone else's life who was killed. And I think that's what makes it very poignant. So this was a big switch for me. So again, what I'm trying to say is, her motivation when you're looking outward to help somebody else, when it doesn't become just so much about you and you're trying to help others, or looking outward and seeing what good you can do, which is in this sense her good, that is what's driving her. Not just the darkness of, I got to take revenge. That's what she's doing, but she's avenging. So it's almost avenge, the Avengers, right? So it's kind of like avenging. It's different than revenge. I hope I'm clear. I hope I'm making sense. So to me, I don't know, because to me, I'm a little more satisfied saying, "Wow, okay, let's see how you avenge Sohee's death for yourself. That helps your own current narrative and the story that's happening." Right? Let me know if you have questions. 8 minutes. I guess the episodes are shorter. Definitely bingeable. Yeah, definitely. Gotta see the next episode. And, that was a school nurse that couldn't help her early on. Who was that? You were the one who she was looking for? Dungeons and I think. Oh, crap. Sorry. And who is that? Anybody know? I'm missing something. Who's the guy? Okay, I think I have to keep watching. Alright, hold on, let me pause it. Oh, her husband. It's her husband. Okay, I see. Ah, so let me get this straight. So that photo was missing from the apartment? Her apartment? Is that what it is? See, some of the stuff hold on, let me get a next episode. We're not gonna watch the next episode. I think I'll watch on my own for sure. The helper's husband, she figured out who was a so she figured out who the help oh, gotcha, gotcha. Okay. Yes, the missing pic. Okay. Yeah, little things like that. Sometimes you just gotta wow. So, thanks for that. So I guess for those of you who watched with me, thoughts on this first episode? I'm like dying to watch the next one, but I think my husband wants to watch that one with me. Overall, I this is it's very interesting, and so a little less triggering. I will say I'm glad than the first one, but really enjoying it. And I think overall, I'm hopeful that it's going to be the ending that it's going to be. Not much else to say except the fact that I told you the motivation with Yunjin, and she just keeps getting worse and worse. But it makes for a good story, so that's why we keep watching. And also the fact that the Sohee girl who was also bullied and then killed, died that we saw is fascinating. I'm just curious to know who Yunjin's assistant is that also had the burns. Anybody wanted to share on here? Did you notice that? And she got a little freaked out when she saw Tonglin. And so that to me, I saw that and I don't know what that is, but obviously that's big part of that'll be part of the story. Thanks for joining me, guys, and I'll be doing this more, but at this point, I'm gonna keep watching and just kind of see how far I get along since the episodes are short. Just keep DMing me to we'll talk about it and we'll go from there. Yeah, and we'll go from there and try to she might have, but then she was shaking when she saw Tongun. So my thing is that's her behavior like she was more composed with Yunjin and then saw Tongan and got a little shook up. So that's why I'm just trying to figure that out. Obviously, it's not Tongan per se, but something with that connection that I'd like to see happen. Any other questions for me while we're all on here? Yeah. I think one of the things with what makes a bully, folks have asked me that, how does a bully turn into a bully? The real root of it, which I don't know if we're going to see, is the family. Sometimes bullies there I don't I'm trying to think of research and examples, but generally it stems from the behavior that they were modeled in their own home. And so you're already seeing Yunjin's mom kind of not, evil as well. So think of that. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So then we're hoping, and there's also a lot about nurture versus nature, right? Nurture versus nature. So the nurture would be Yunjin's mom and Yunjin, but then and how that and then the nature just maybe some not just environmental things, but just genetics and in the environment that you're in, right? Nature versus nurture. But then Yunjin's daughter is someone interesting too. How is she going to turn out? How would she have turned out? We don't know. I guess we'll see. We didn't see her in this first episode, right? Maybe how it's like in real life. What's like in real life? Can you like further elaborate, Amanda? What do you mean? What's like in real life? But yeah, bullies, a lot of folks don't focus on how they become bullies. We just know that they're broken people and have their own messed up lives or have had difficulty. A lot of people say they tend to come from trauma. So we're just assuming we don't even know Yunjin's own childhood life. We just know Tongun from Yunjin's point of view. Oh, yeah, like because maybe it's like how it is in real life. Yeah. So I mean, maybe. I'm not sure. I guess if you haven't seen it, and there's folks probably on here that have seen it that probably know more, but again, I don't know if we'll ever see a backstory of Yunjin, and that would be kind of interesting to see, and maybe that'll be like season 3. Sana's mother was abused too. Yes, Sana, yes, Sana is the assistant. I mean, is Tongun's helper, right? Yeah. Sana is okay because I think she has an out of going to the US, but she's not really okay. That we're seeing her being okay for the make of the story, but she's not. Like in real life, someone like that would have some struggles and their own trauma would have and it probably what might manifest later in their adult life and then they would have to face it. That's difficult. If it's your even if it's your biological father, stepfather, doesn't matter. You're physically abused, assaulted in the home, domestic interpartner violence, domestic violence, you witness that, that does a number on you, I think no matter what. And so let's just hope again, when you tend to see that behavior, they tend to produce that behavior, but that's not always the case. And always the hope is that you can break that cycle. So with Yunjin, the reason why I feel like she's behaving the way she is, her mother was like that. I don't think you really see much about her dad. So there's that. And it really is rooted in the family. That's why family and parenting, a lot of my work is rooted in that. So even just so you know, if I see a client that comes in and a Tongun that comes in, or even a Sana or something comes in to see me, at the end of the day, I end up seeing a lot of the family members with that client because as a family therapist, that's my strength. It can't be me helping Tongan only, but I got to see who her support system is. So Tongan doesn't have family. So it would be the doctor, right? I might, if she says she has a boyfriend, or if she has a friend, it might be the helper that I bring in. So it doesn't matter. It's called family sessions, but it's really family could be a lot of different people, right? Not just your blood relatives. And I'm sharing this because that's how important it is, like your family. So no matter what the issues you go through, or when folks go through therapy, I have ended up meeting with parents and siblings and cousins and best friends and boyfriends and husbands and partners because they can help and they can also not help. So that's why I also bring them in to figure out where the conflict is. So that's kind of like me giving you that analysis about who would see what. If now maybe a Yunjin would come to see me, and I'm trying to think of certain cases. Maybe she would come to see me and share about her problems from her perspective. I have called out folks before saying, like, okay, let's bring in your husband or let's bring in your mom to figure this out to get a more broader perspective. If a family doesn't want to go through therapy, yes, definitely see that. You can't force it. Therapy is not effective if it's forced. Unfortunately, right? I mean, you can't drag someone in. So if I have somebody who comes to see me and they're really wanting family therapy and I also want that for them with their family, if nobody from their family wants to come in or if it doesn't work, then it only will be distressing for the client for me to keep insisting they bring in their family because the family's going to say, "No, what are you doing in therapy? That's stupid." All the things that people might say. Then I just focus on helping the client, the one thing I can control. And that's okay. That's not always ideal, but again, sometimes if you're fighting your own family, then I got to find a way to give you the strength for yourself to to build that resilience against, or not with, so you could be strong with the family members that are against you in some sense. Or I also ask you to bring in other people, like your partner, somebody else that's a support. And you don't have to. There's many a times I've seen individuals, but I would say majority, there's always a support system that I bring in for extra help to help the clients, really just to help the client. So these are good questions. Yeah. So just going back to that, yeah, everything is rooted in the family. Let me know if you have more questions. I study the system. So when I speak to organizations, I'll even talk about where, if you're thinking workplace, then I look at the leaders who are responsible for a lot of change, and that kind of trickles down just like parents. So that's a lot of my work, looking at things in a system, and the core, the foundational relationship, which is the parents or the partner relationship or the adults or whatever that is. It all starts with the adults. The adults have the responsibility. And I say that a lot to the parents when I'm like, you're the adult. So technically you're held accountable first. And then we got to figure out the child. Right. And so when there's blame placed on the child, I tend to reframe that when a lot of parents bring in their kids. And I don't see as much kids as I used to because of time. But yeah, there are a lot of folks who are like, can you fix my child? And sure, the child or teen may be struggling and maybe behaving in a way that the parents are trying to do their best. But it's not about me going, yeah, let me fix your child. I'm like, let's figure out the family. What's going on with the family that your teen is acting out like this? So it all stems, you're all part of a system. You don't work individually. So I hope that helps. Okay, so I can't wait to watch episode 2. Thanks for joining, folks, on a Friday night. You know where to reach me, and we'll do this again soon. Maybe no, we already have the finale. It's already out. So maybe for the next K-drama, we'll talk about it. All right, guys. When it comes to work, some bosses just don't agree with them. So that's where coping mechanisms come in through employees. Yes, definitely. Oh, yeah. You can't control the leaders. You can't control your boss. There's many toxic workplaces. There's workplace gaslighting. All of that exists. I also experienced it when I worked at corporations. That is very difficult. So all you can do is help yourself, or at least also find those besties at work, the allies at work, the people that you can be close to. Even if it's one person, you're in it with somebody else. That's really important. It's really hard to be alone. And so that's why you always hear me insist on trying to find somebody, even if it's not in your direct team or even in your job or workplace. It could be someone else that understands that they're also struggling the same way. You find that company in misery, but you also find that company in hope and happiness together. So thanks for asking your questions. So continue to ask your questions. You know where to reach me, and have a good rest of the weekend. I'm sure I'll talk soon and let you know how I feel once I watch more. All right, guys. Bye. Thanks for joining.